Good afternoon everybody, it's now the 1st of July 2020. Just getting ready to do my second stop on the majority of the varieties I've got over the next few days. My large and giants are going on a single stop, and they were stopped a few days ago, and so I'm just going to be selecting the breaks over the coming days on those. I've got some Mary Margaret Rowe and Westerton Harry medium decks on this row, followed by a few Jane Amy and some Westerton Lillian. Westerton Lillian, I grew only a couple of plants last year, grows very tall, and some big old plants. So they've had their first their stop, so I've now got to go through and just select the breaks. Then on this side I've got some Kenora Sunset, good old favourite, followed by my Challenger. These are all Challenger here. Had one or two leaning over a little bit, should I say, due to the excessive winds we've had recently, but most of them are looking okay. I've just got to take the tops out of those now and select the breaks over the coming weeks. These are my Kenora Valentine, well, all except for that one there, which is Spare Hamari Gold that I've chucked in because one of my Valentine broke off in the winds and I didn't have a spare one. So they've all had their stop, but I've just got to go through selecting the breaks. I've done 4 plants already. I stopped them a little earlier than the others in the hope that they might make August Bank Holiday weekend. Then I've got some oddments of some Bryn Terfel and some Aggie's White, which have all been selected now, and I'll see what happens with them. A few Clearview Edie at the very end. They'll either do something or they won't. Then I've got all my I think these are all my Moonlights, selection of White Cream and Eastwood. I've only grown 2 plants of each before last year, and I was quite pleased with them, so I've gone not over mad, but I've got about a dozen plants, or I think 16 of Eastwood, 12 of Cream and 4 White at the very end. And then I've got a double row of candies, mostly white candy, and then I think there's a few Hillcrest further down, and then at the very end just a few Rycroft Helen. And then coming up this side I've got all my selection of different Dianes. Didn't tell you which ones. I've got Cream, Winholm and Tracy's Diane, I think, in there. And then I've got some Blight and Everest in that row, and I know I've got Happit Diane down the end, and some Primrose Diane. So I've got out of the Dianes I've got Winholm, Cream, Primrose, Tracy's and Happit, and would have liked to have had a few more of each, but I would always seem to have a job to get those to root, so what will be will be. And on this side I've got some Cherwell Goldcrest and some Oakwood Goldcrest. Again, trouble getting the Oakwoods, so I've got a few half decent plants and then 2 or 3 babies that'll run on a single. Up here I've got all my stock tubers. I just keep a couple of tubers of each variety, really just for some early blooms, usually for an early show beginning of August, but of course that's all been cancelled this year, so they all go along. I'll put them all along this bed this year, or most of them. So that's a little selection of each. Onto this bed, these are my miniature cactus. I've got a selection of Jasudis. We've got trying Polaris again for the second year. It came too big last year, so I'm going to stop it a bit more. It's already had one stop. I'll pinch it out again. And then I've got some Telstar and I know there's some Jasudi Hercules, and then I've also got a few Western Spanish Dancer, Carol Spanish Dancer, Western Buccaneer here, and Western Pirate amongst those. So I've got plenty of miniature cactus as usual. Then on this bed I've got miniature decoratives. I've got a few Blight and Stella, some of which were pot tubers, just didn't get enough plants off of them, and some Polventon Christabel, and some Western Ella Grace, which I know are going to be tall. They're coming on alright. They're due their next stop in the next few days. Then I've got some Dave's Choice, Blighton Lady in red, and Blighton Valentine, which I'm growing again this year. Managed to get a nice lot of plants, but with most of the shows cancelled, I'm just growing about a dozen plants of each. See what I get. And then my miniature ball, again Germander, had a lot of problems getting any cutting material, so I've ended up putting 2 or 3 pot tubers in, so they all need stopping. I'll say they're already in bud, so they'll get chopped back very soon, followed by my Mary's Germander further down, which managed to get enough plants off of those. And then coming up this side I've got my water lilies. There's down the very end there's some Cameo, followed by Pam Howden, and I've got a few Bracken Ballerina and some Kilburn Glow, and 1 or 2 other new ones. I think I've got a couple of odd plants at the end of the rows, some to trial. And then I've got my usual Gwyneth and Taratahi Ruby. And then some small semi-cactus, just my Rycroft Zoe down the end and Greenway Zoe here. Then up the top of the garden, at the back, I've got I was running out of room for stock tubers, so in amongst my sweet peas I managed to squeeze a double row of stock tubers of, these are all my mediums and large and giant, so basically anything that's my Moonlights and that sort of thing, right up to Kenora Valentine at the very end. They're all in there, so I've just got to net them soon, and I shan't do anything with, I'll just let them come. Just do a bit of disbudding. I won't be messing about with those. And then finally, almost finally, this is the little bit of extra ground I found for the small decks and small semi-cactus tuber stock. They've all gone in there, and like I say, originally all this tuber stock would be used for early August shows, so I should just let those flower and be a bit of early colour for indoors. Now then, finally, pot tubers. I've got plenty of pot tubers. That's one lot there. and then another lot here which I've got to sort through, but yep, they'll all do for pot tubers. Goodness only knows what I'm going to do with them later on, but there's plenty there to choose from, and may well end up needing some for cutting material next year. If not, the locals will no doubt come and have some for next summer. Almost forgot, last few plants, I've got a few one or two bits and pieces in here, and then I've got poms. Poms are from here to the end, just a little selection of poms, only 8 or 9 plants of each variety, and about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 varieties of poms. So we shall see what they bring later on. Alright, see you soon.